Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today's Doctor Who review is none other than some more 8th Doctor, Nevermore. So, what is the story Nevermore about? Well, it all revolves around a certain poet known as Edgar Allan Poe. Now, you've most probably heard of him, or if you haven't, he was a very popular poet over the years. He's well known for his poem, The Raven, and that's exactly what this whole story kind of revolves around. The Doctor and Tamsin find themselves wandering around the Tardis, when all of a sudden Tamsin points out to the Doctor that he's one of those people, to which the Doctor replies, "What type of people?" And she explains, "Oh, you're a single man who loves his cat." And he goes, "I don't have a cat." And then suddenly this cat begins to rain havoc, and they find themselves upon a desolate rock known as Nevermore. Tamsin follows the cat outside the TARDIS doors, and the Doctor says, "I'm going to give you about 2 minutes, but you better find that cat, otherwise I'm leaving you here." She finds the cat, however, the Doctor ends up getting the doors locked for a while, whilst two ravens begin to rant at him about the poem by Edgar Allan Poe. Now, the Doctor stands there trying to memorise bits of the poem. However, what he doesn't expect to happen is for him and Tamsin, when he finally gets out of the box, to come face to face with a war criminal. This war criminal has been locked up on this planet ever since the Red Death. Now, what is the Red Death? Imagine the Black Death, but it's red. And the whole planet is immersed in this kind of red, dark, kind of crimson smoke. The Doctor and Tamsin begin to rant back and forth about who this woman exactly is, and when the Doctor explains the story, Tamsin soon begins to realise why she is so reviled by many people in the universe. She interfered with galactic history, and she murdered a galactic leader just out of kind of benefit for Jules. It turns out that Nevermore once used to be a very beautiful planet where volcanoes would spew gems and such. However, that happening, it influenced a lot of people who wanted diamonds to come to the planet and just take up diamonds and any sort of jewellery that would spew from the volcano, making the planet redundant. After this and the assassination, the planet became a no-go zone. A zone where essentially only the prison on it remains. However, the Doctor and Tamsin at some point in this story get locked up by the criminal who has been living on this rock for so long, and ironically when that happens, it's only because she's put two and two together and realised that the real ambassador has turned up and the Doctor is nothing but a phony pretending to be the ambassador. After all, the Doctor did try to get Tamsin off this rock, but situations changed. However, the fact that the red mist is still going on, and the Doctor soon learns off of the real ambassador that the mist causes things to mutate, it turns out that their innocent cat, as it was, seems to have mutated to a giant beast. However, at first the Doctor and Tamsin put this down to the fact that it's most probably something to do with the smoke. After all, the prisoner did joke with Tamsin that maybe she'd end up with two heads. However, later on we find out in the story that Tamsin and the Doctor are nothing to do with these murders. Turns out that this cat is rogue due to the fact of the woman on the island. She is mutated over time to become essentially very, very used to the red fog, the red death as it was called, and this has enhanced her powers. Now she uses her ability to harness animals and make them 10 times the size of what they are to essentially kill all of her enemies. This is all spewed on by the fact that the Doctor reveals the fact that he is a Time Lord and he's been brought there. At first, everyone on the island believes the Doctor is just interfering in history, once again, like most of the Time Lords do, but it turns out he's there for a completely separate reason. When the Doctor explains that if he is going to play the Time Lord role, he is going to free them from themselves. After all, the big insanity that seems to be happening throughout this story is the fact that people in the story are absolutely obsessed with Edgar Allan Poe. When the Doctor finally lets her be free, he says that she can take the hovercraft, she can escape the planet without trial. She just needs to go and find somewhere else to exist. She accepts this plea bargain and decides that it's time that she leaves Nevermore once and for all. The Doctor then returns to the Tardis to find Tamsin still playing around with the cat. He then points out that the cat needs to leave the ship because he is not becoming a cat's paw. And the Doctor and Tamsin go off for another adventure in time and space. So what did I think of Nevermore? Honestly, I absolutely love the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. I remember reading bits and pieces of it during doing English in school years ago. I also remember enjoying listening to it before I could read, on the basis that it's such a beautiful gothic kind of poem. It's a story about a bird tapping on the window and this kind of paranoia of not knowing who's knocking at your door. I also kind of love in this story the way that there's just a giant cat. This is Doctor Who at its wackiest, at its best, and for that reason I give it a solid 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next Doctor Who review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, you beautiful people.